It's so easy in this fast-paced world and the culture that we live in, and the electronic resources we have, cell phones, iPods, all the stuff that distracts us,
Video cameras.
that we can pretty much function on our own in our own little world, and we can just curl up in our own little world. So my question would be, how do you keep yourself connected and in community with others as opposed to being isolated and separate?
I think that for me, it's not necessarily a conscious effort. A lot of times if I am making an effort to be in contact with people, a lot of times it's through my cell phone or through the internet or, it's using that media to be connected with people. I don't know.
I think the technology is a really great tool if used right. Never before have we been able to really spread the word of Christ, and as well as really connect with others as we have in this day and age. Having said that, it can go way too far. I know I'm totally addicted to Russell. And so I know I've spent time that I could have spent, one-on-one interaction with my family, just playing my phone or, just messing around playing Black Ops. So I'm definitely guilty of that. But I think it's definitely a good tool if used right, but it should never replace, face-to-face contact and just getting that one-on-one feel, because I think that's where you can really feel Christ is face-to-face, not on FaceTime.
I'm very willing to admit I'm very bad about getting caught up in my own little technical world, which especially things like Facebook and Twitter, it's horrendous these days, looking through Twitter and seeing these vicious subtweet battles. It's pretty bad. I think I get my time away from that through, my forensics career, my acting stuff like that, because that's my moment where, one, that's a distraction to me in general. I can't work anything out, but also performing for people, and I don't know if it's not necessarily for the audience member, but for me alone, that I have a emotional connection with everybody I'm performing with whenever I'm doing a piece, because I'm putting my all into that, and then people will come up afterwards and they'll talk to me about it, and it helps initiate some conversations and stuff, and it's...
I agree with Colby, because, when I talk, I'm a talker. I feel like I'm taking part of myself and saying, here's my words, here's me, just take it. And so sometimes I just set down my phone when I feel like I'm getting too addicted to it or whatever my little electronic device is. I just set it down and I say, I'm going to spend time with someone that's not a technology piece of metal that doesn't care about me. And so then I go find my little brother and we talk or argue. But it's all part of the communication.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like everybody's in agreement that we have to be intentional, that we're not saying it's a bad thing, that we have this opportunity with the electronic and technical piece of our world, but we have to be intentional about our relationships. So when we go to a restaurant and we see people not even talking because they're all texting, maybe that's something we should be more intentional about, is being present in the moment. So I hear that's what you guys are saying. That's great. Well, when do you notice yourself struggling to keep your spirit in sync with God's spirit?
All the time.
All the time. You're aware all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And not necessarily, consciously thinking about it, but there's always that sort of off feeling-ish whenever it's kind of out of sync, and that's been a lot for me lately. Whenever school gets crazy or friends gets crazy, I sort of put all of my religious stuff on the back burner, and that's out of bad habit, but it's just kind of how it's, and it's not right at all, but that's just kind of how it is. I try to take my times on Sundays, but it gets hard to go to church in the morning whenever you have a forensics competition the night before and you're out until 2 in the morning competing and stuff, and it's I don't know, sort of an off feeling, if that answers the question at all.
Sure it does.
Definitely get what Colby's saying. You really notice when you're in it, and you can really notice when you have God's presence, but it's harder to notice when you don't have it. You can kind of tell a little bit. You're not in it, but it's a lot more subtle. And I think that's also why it happens a lot more of the time, is that it's not as profound a feeling as having God's Spirit upon you as it is not. And so it's really noticeable when you have God's Spirit upon you. It can get really intense, but, you know, not having it upon you, you know, you just almost don't notice it.
I know, like, whenever I can feel like my attitude's slipping up, I'm starting to feel angry, I can tell like I'm losing that because I stop talking. And that's like the end of all things when I'm not talking. And so that's how I can tell I'm kind of out of it.
I think I tend to get most out of sync with His Spirit when I'm stressed, when I've got a lot of deadlines, you know,
Yeah.
when I've got tons
Everybody's
of stuff going
nodding.
on. Yeah. I noticed that also He can use those opportunities to help me learn to trust Him and help me learn to let Him help me in those situations.
Sure.
Great. Well, we've kind of talked about this, but maybe everybody could throw out one specific way that we might be able to become more aware and connected to God's Spirit in our lives. Maybe just one specific way.
I would say by making a goal. Like, I'm huge on making goals. And so some days I'll make a goal to talk to someone I don't normally talk to, because that's how I see feeling God's presence is by talking. So I just go find someone, chat it up.
Or the vice versa, that listen. I mean, there's a lot of people that are out there. I'm not trying to like down talk. Yeah, there's a lot of people out there that may not necessarily have anybody to talk to, and striking up that first conversation, and then just kind of sitting there and listening. And because I know personally for me, like, I don't even ask for advice back a lot of times. I just need that moment to, if I'm stressed, just get all my problems out there. Okay, I'm done. Later, bye. It's relieving to just keep all that get rid of all that bottled stuff up. Yeah.
I think also, like, making an effort to be around people who have God's Spirit with them, and who are the types of people where God can be with them. And if you are with those people, then that's a good way to have God's Spirit with you.
Yeah, I definitely like that where it's for me it's more of I gotta stop and listen, and not, because I'm always moving around, I'm talking to people, or I got something going on, gotta pick someone up from somewhere, gotta go do something, gotta go eat, gotta get my own food, you know, there's always something I have to be doing, because that's where I am in life right now, you know, a lot of activities. And so
Fast-paced.
exactly, it's fast. I think that's the way it is for everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone's
Yeah.
fast paced. You always gotta have something you gotta be doing, and whether it's electronic or physically. And then when I actually have time or not have time, a lot of times it's when I don't have time and I actually make a conscious effort to really stop and just kind of listen a little bit and get a little bit reconnected. That's when I really tend to feel God's Spirit.
So making an effort every day to take some time to get back in tune.